Dear teacher, hello, my name is Daniel Eduardo Aguayo Yepes, and today I'm going to talk about some strategies to learn listening and speaking. Here, as you can see, this is my ID, and I will begin with the first strategy. The first strategy is about predicting. So when we talk about predicting, we do have at least two approaches. The first one is the activation of prior knowledge. It has to do with just trying to recover what we already know. So what would be the process here? The process would be that we can, make prediction. I mean, we should make prediction before and during not only listening activities but also speaking activities. And there is also, another approach that can help a lot when we try to predict, which is the brainstorming, which is, just bring to our minds or just think what could happen. And in other words, what words I think or we think we'll hear. So we just put the words that we think and we believe in our minds. In this strategy, if you want to be an effective speaker, then we need to see or check the spoken text words and see if it fits or not with the audience or situation. In other words, we need to understand the context of a particular situation. And then if you want to be a really good listener, then you need to, within this strategy, just try to modify their predictions as you get new connections or as you make new connections and ideas from what you're listening. The second strategy is about self-talk and self-questioning. Well, self-talk, we say that it is part of the thinking process. And the main characteristic or feature here is that we do not have verbalization, but what we do have is the comments and conversations that, of course, all of them happen within our minds. So that is the main point here in this strategy. And of course, our brain does this activity, of course. But the thinking process here, we have to mention that helps a lot. Helps in order to what? Understand the ideas or our own ideas and also reflect the actions or our behavior, of course, and also helps with other things like decisions, um, because it is related with the way we think. Another strategy is the self-questioning. So some authors say that we have to talk about self-talk and self-questioning because they can work together. But in case of the self-questioning, we make, of course, questions, and it could be while we are listening, while we are speaking, of course, but it could happen spontaneously. So sometimes we don't think too much and we just make questions because of our curiosity, right? Um, so it could be that we make questions all the time for both activities related to the listening and speaking, of course, right? Could be uh, before, while, or even after the activities, right? So as a result of making questions, we see that we create meaning, and our comprehension is going to improve, of course. Um, Another advantage I would say is that you can be a better listener and a speaker if you use this technique. And of course, all this happens because we just improve in the understanding. Our understanding of what we are listening and speaking is just better. The next strategy is about visualizing and creating images. So as the strategy says, um, It's about the mental creation of images, of pictures that we don't draw with our hands. What we do is just imagine your use our imagination in order to create something that we don't really touch and that we don't really see, that we see within our minds. That is the main point. So, what is the advantage? I mean, not maybe, but mainly it's about two things. The number one is to promote uh, prior knowledge, you know, because it is connected. We are going to see that some strategies, in fact, get relationships between them. And when we want to make one strategy, um, we actually are going to need more strategies to put together in order uh, to produce one strategy, one or two strategies. So in this case, uh, promotes, of course, prior knowledge, something that we already know, and it improves, of course, the comprehension. And of course, another advantage is that we improve in terms of prediction, interpretation, memory, and understanding we if we use this strategy. And the last one is how we can improve this, how we can apply this strategy. Well, we need to use our senses. Um, the visual, the auditory, the olfactory, the kinesthetic, or emotional. For example, if maybe you just smell, or I'm talking about the olfactory sense. Maybe if you breathe and then you smell a kind of a new flavor or something like in the air, then you start imagining. You don't have to, for instance, if you're in the kitchen, if you smell, if you breathe some, kind of tasty odor, then of course you're going to imagine. So there's no need to see, but you imagine. You start imagining. The next one is called swifting. Swifting, we say, and it happens when we, not only using our one language, but our second language, even more languages, we change the way we speak, more likely using the same language, but in a different ways. Sometimes we change dialects. We do this, of course, depending on the situation, the context, and even the people that we are talking to. And that is here actually the most important thing. And why? Because we cannot speak to everyone in the same way, or even sometimes in the way we would like. Because, in the society we do have some rules, some hierarchy, and so on. So one example is that we don't use the same words, the same way to talk with our friends than we use words with our workmates or employers. So we don't do that, especially in speaking, right? So this strategy helps to fit in a specific situation or social context. The next strategy is about getting importance from what we listen or from what we speak. The strategy mainly consists in what intake, what is relevant, which information I need to keep for me, even in the long term, if you want, if you see it necessary, or in the short term memory, you know. So it helps, to know the appropriate content, text, or conversation that properly fit with a purpose or audience. So it is very useful to, you know, to to get a talk and to know how to respond to the talk. So how we do this? Just as I said, identify and select what is relevant or not. And one good thing here is just to forget the minor details. Not to try to remember or get that. Just the main ones. The next strategy is about paraphrasing and summarizing. So it is also a very good technique. It's very important while we are listening and speaking. So when we paraphrase, maybe we're in front of our friends. So what we do is just say what the original spoken text said. Yeah, but we're with our one thinking, with our one comprehension. And of course, when we do this process, we use our own words and originality. So of course, we hear and we get the main things, and then briefly we we give we give back information. Summarize well, take the most important of what is being said. So this technique is going to help us to maintain the main meaning of what we are listening, and also improve in terms of understanding, awareness, and conversations that we do have. It's very helpful when we have very long spoken texts. The next strategy is about connecting. So, well, it means, to link things, to link ideas. So the strategy mainly makes links with previous knowledge that we have before while we are listening and speaking. So it actually improves the meaning of obtained from conversations because you're connecting everything, and then speakers and listeners can talk and listen too, and respond from what they know. So that is the main advantage that this strategy gives you. Then we have the comparing contrast technique. So, of course, if we want to compare the result that we're going to, results that we want to find, it's just comparisons. I mean, how was this listening? How was that listening? And so on. So this strategy, how can we do this strategy? So we have to use previous knowledge, and while we're receiving new information, we just try to compare. And a part of the process is just making questions, trying to make this difference while we acquire information, right? So it is very helpful for comprehension, of course, but it is also important in the critical thinking because it challenges your opinions with the ones that you're hearing. The next strategy is about inferring, right? So in this strategy, both listeners and speakers they need to absorb quickly, right? Uh, the most important thing from what they are being saying or listening, especially the meaning, and they need to mix with their own knowledge. So this is the first thing. In this way, we're going to produce the inferences, but we need to make the whole process. Within the process, we can make predictions, draw conclusions, make judgments, and so on. So what results from all these things, results in our own interpretation and assumption. So as an example, I'm going to tell you that while listening, what do? We just get clues as a number one thing, and then we try to listen to the tone of the author or the person that is speaking, and then we use our previous knowledge. So it helps us to get clear understanding and deeper understanding about what we are listening to. Well, the next strategy is about synthesizing. It means that well, we need to take pieces of information and just try to get together all of them, and it could be from different sources, from different people, and from different pieces of information, as I say. So what do we have to do here? Just try to use reflection after what we have said and what we have heard, of course. Okay, we're going to see that it involves a process, but we need to say that it helps a lot to follow your own thinking and keep the meaning, as I said, and be aware of understanding and restate the information. So this strategy is going to support all of these activities, or at least these four activities that I have mentioned. And while if to do this strategy very well, you need to connect, compare, decide what is important and not, make questions and connect. We do have the last strategy, which is self-monitoring and self-correction. So in this strategy, or these two strategies, which sometimes can work together, they help listeners and speakers to make reflections on what they speak, on what they listen to, and so on. So in this way, they can confirm their understanding, and the good thing is that it helps us to get suggestions. And if once we get suggestion within us, and then we start to make self-correction. That is the main point. That is the reason why we do have self-monitoring and self-correction, right? But if just in the case that we are just missing the understanding, we have to go through a process which is about repeating, recasting, paraphrasing, summarizing, and asking questions. That's it. And why? Uh, because that all these things are going to improve our retention and meaning from the message. Okay, so I would like to thank you, of course, and here I have my references, as you may see, and of course, say again, thank you.